I love doing this panel each year because to me, the greatest inspiration comes from those authors who are either currently in the process and getting ready to launch their books or have recently launched their books in the past year or so, um, or less. It's a very exciting time when you're in this journey. It's everything is new, everything is fun, hopefully. Though there may be some frustrating things, as some of you have experienced. We won't name names, but but sometimes wild and crazy things happen. So I'm not going to talk a lot during this interview. What I want to do is I want to give you all the space and the place. We have about 45 minutes here. So what I want to do is basically give each of you, there's one, two, three, four, five. How many of us? Six. I'm going to give you each about 5 or 6 minutes to tell the audience your name. If your author name is different, please let them know the title of your book, when your book is publishing, or if it is recently published. And then I just want you to share with us a little bit about your journey. So if you can talk about maybe the things that surprised you or were totally different than you expected, or things you wish you'd known before that you know now, those types of things. And then if we have time at the end, we might get back to it. And I just want to give a special welcome to is it Isabella? Is that how you pronounce it?
It's Isabella.
Isabella. Okay. To Isabella, she is a very young author. How old are you? 14?
I'm 15.
15. Wow. So her dad actually reached out and said, my daughter has published her book and I found your conference and we were like, bring her on over. Let's have her talk to, because we've had other very young authors reach out and say, how do I do this process? So, well, I'm very excited to have you here with us today too. If anybody has any questions for our audience, please use the Q&A box. And ladies, I think you all have the ability to go into the Q&A box and type answers. So if you see a question, if you have a question for a specific author, please say this is for Katrina or this is for Mardine, and they can go in and they can answer those questions for you too. All right, in the order of you appear in my screen, it's Katrina, then Mardine, then Shruti, then Isabella, Emily, and Renee. So that's the order I'm going to go in to make it easier. And I knew Katrina was going to give me the snake eye when I said that, because she's very shy. So
I'm very shy.
You don't necessarily love being on camera. So all right, we're going to kick it off with you. So if just to recap what I said, introduce your name, the title of your book, the genre is important too, so that if people want to connect with you on that. Just a little bit about your experience, and I'll try and wave when we get to about the 5-minute point.
I'm also very forgetful, so Alexa, feel free to just pop in and be like, yes, but.
Me too.
You'll all be fantastic. This is low stress environment. We are all rooting you on. All right, go for it, Katrina.
Well, thanks, Alexa. So my name's Katrina. My author name is Katie Engelhart. It sounds a lot better. I write a young adult urban fantasy. I released my debut novel called The Wise One in October of 2020 with the help of Alexa and her ridiculously awesome team. At first, it was my MFA thesis actually, so I didn't really know what to expect. Like, I had written the book, but I didn't know like what to do after that. So I was really grateful to have found Alexa, and I was a follower of the Women in Publishing Summit too. So I knew exactly what I wanted. And I guess I should start with what the book is about, or?
Sure. Yeah. You can give a quick synopsis of the book, and then maybe some of the things that, pick an area, whether it was marketing or production or something like that, and let us know if you had struggles or surprises or takeaways.
Definitely a lot of struggles and surprises. But yeah, so my book, so it's called The Wise One. It's about a 17-year-old named McKenna who discovers through her two dads on her 17th birthday that she has innate magical abilities, which she inherited from her birth mother, who before now she didn't know existed. So she sets out to, I didn't know existed in the sense, by the way, that she thought she was like a surrogate and like they didn't know who her mother was and stuff. So she finds out that they in fact do know, and there's a huge history there. And so she sets out to find her in Ireland. So it's her journey finding herself, her magic, and trying to find her mother. So takeaways, I guess. Well, one of the things I would love to tell new authors is to not miss any steps, because it's really exciting to have finished a book, but there's so much you need to do after that before it actually goes to formatting and you decide on a release date and all that stuff. And I think I was really excited to get it out there because I wanted, like, I had a ticking time bomb sort of for Halloween in the literal sense, like in my book, because it's like it's sort of a theme. And so in real life, like I wanted it to be released on Halloween. And Alexa was so accommodating there. Like she really tried to get it going, but in the process I might have overlooked some things, and I wish I hadn't submitted it to formatting before I had it finally finalized, like proofread, because we sort of did that after, and it was a little messy and it sucked for the designer and sucked for me. It's like for Alexa. So definitely encourage you, once you're finished your novel, to get your beta readers, get your feedback, get it professionally edited, and then proofread, and then formatted, and really do all of that, because you're going to hate yourself if you skip one of those steps. So, yeah.
Yes, we all learned some very valuable lessons in that process that have, yes, I mean, I want to say that this is a little bit of a difference on genre. So with the children's book, obviously you're going to have a lot less content. The proofreading is generally, the editing process generally gets it. Nonfiction, depending on the style of writing, generally doesn't, but with fiction books, you guys, fiction books, there's so much stuff that you really need to have, the full editing process. And we've seen this a couple of times now, how important it is to do that proofread before formatting, just because so many things can change. But yeah, that was an interesting thing. But despite that, we got the book out on time. You had a great launch. You have, and still are doing wonderful things on your Instagram account and having a lot of fun.
I had such a great launch, and it's really thanks to my surroundings. And the last thing, if I have to say anything, is really spread the word and tell your friends and your family about it. I know you don't want to, probably, like a lot of you, like it's like, oh, I wrote a book, I don't want anyone to read it, but you do want people to read it, and you want people to talk about it. So definitely do that, and stay true to yourself and your interests, because you will capture others who have the same interests. Like if you start worrying about what people think at the beginning, it's not going to go so smoothly. So stick with what you like and what you're passionate about, and I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah, a lot of unexpected, which is why you should allow for plenty of time, because there's a lot of unexpected things that happen along the way. Thank you, Katrina. And just if you all can please post in the chat when you're not talking, if you can post your social media links so that people can follow you. They want to be able to connect. So make sure each of you does that. All right, Mardine.
Hey. Hi, I'm Mardine.
I'm a little scared of what you're going to say.
No. You shouldn't be. So I wanted to be a writer since I was a child, but I didn't actually get the courage to publish or write my first book until I was an adult. So I had a lot of challenges, but 3 years ago, I decided to sit down. I'm going to write this book, and I started in May. November, I thought I was going to have this book done, published by the following year. And fast forward 2 years, and I was just handing it over to an editor. And I forgot to say, I'm sorry. I am launching my first book next week, March 9th. With Cat Biggie Press. I'm so excited. It's called Expiration Date, a Dystopian Fiction. So I had this expectation that I was going to write this book, get it out there and published within a year, and that just wasn't going to happen. My first editor was not exactly a good fit for me, to say the least. So that in itself took months to find a new editor and a developmental editor, have it re-edited, and then thank goodness, I did find the Women in Publishing and Write Publish Sell prior to that, because learning all of these things that I had through them. And Alexa and her team had taken me on and kind of taken me the rest of the way. So, they got right on the book. And so during that process, there was some, it just took a little while. There were some editing things, some technological things, usually really on my part, I have to say, because I'm not technologically savvy and I forget things. So this process just had taken a lot longer. Come to find out in December. So my original launch was going to be in November. Come to find out that my copy edit wasn't that great. So once it got to the proofreader, it needed an entire new edit. So we pushed that launch off. I think we changed it till January, and then we ended up changing again till March. So we had to put that that launch off again because of all these edits that needed to get done. And so then I got the book, the print copy, in a couple weeks ago, and because of technological issues, half of my edits weren't in there. So now we're kind of on the clock and we're trying to get this done. I do have to say the team has been a lifesaver, and as much as Alexa, yay, as much as Alexa thought I was so upset about this happening. I was, but I wasn't upset because of the issues that were happening. But I was upset that the team had to work so much harder to get this done. And I do have to say that I am very blessed. Flowers are always blooming around me. Deer prancing around. My cup is always half full, no matter what is falling down around me. But sometimes it takes other people a little more time to get to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's so important that you do, because this is your baby. You've worked so hard for this, and you have to have the right mindset. Otherwise, you're just gonna stifle yourself. And so if you're having these challenges, it's all going to work out. It's okay. You want to make sure that you get things done. Like Katrina said, take all of your steps, the editing, the proofreading, my genre, I had the complete wrong genre that I was marketing under. So that was a challenge as well, because, when it started to go out to the for reviews, I was getting these reviews saying, well, this isn't exactly what I expected. So, I could have taken all of that and been sad and, let it kind of rock my world. But, it's going to get done. This is your baby. You want to make sure that you get all these things right, because it's going to be out in the world forever and ever and ever and ever. And you want to make sure that this short period of time that you have to get it right, to make it perfect, that you do that and you take all those steps. So yeah, I think everything revolves around mindset. Just make sure your head's right.
Yeah, I would agree. So this is one of the benefits of starting the process really, 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 really early, because thankfully we had that time, at the beginning, and we talked about like knowing your audience and the keywords and categories and things like that. We thought it was a medical thriller at the beginning. And then once we saw what people expected from medical thrillers, we were like, nope, let's make some changes. So we were able to make those changes, reshift, and do those things. And that's the big advantage of using advanced readers and professional reviewers, is you can start to see what kind of feedback that they are giving, and you can make changes before the launch. And I would say that it's a little bit disgruntling. It's a little bit unnerving when you see some negative reviews, and when you see people saying, this is not what I expected or whatever. That is helpful. Even if it's hurtful, it is helpful. Yes. Because if you can see those things in the very beginning and make those changes before you've launched your book, that keeps a lot more people from having those same those same things. So, by the way, not everybody in this panel is one of my authors. It just so happens that the first two were. So, like, you will hear from people that, you know, had other experiences, but that's one of the things that I tell our authors, the three of them on here, is don't look at the early reviews. Don't look at them, because you get really hardcore reviewers. Sometimes they come out and they say some things, but we use those to improve your book before the launch. So, you know, we'll recover, and we do. You do, but the time is a big factor. So always allow for more time, because weird things just happen. We had a professional formatter and a weird thing just happened. And then Mardine was like, I should have told you that if anything bad is going to happen, it's going to happen to me.
I told her I'm going to change my name to 1%, because I am that 1% that things always happen to.
But
It's
if you've given yourself enough time in the process, and the beautiful thing about being indie published is you can change the date. You know, you can decide, okay, you know, I need to do this. And that's ultimately the discussion that we had. We said we can publish this on the date that we originally picked, or we can do all the things to make sure that it's as good as it can possibly be. And ultimately, that's what we all decided was the best thing to do. So, but it's going to be fantastic. I've told her it's going to be the best book launch we've ever had.
It has to be.
It has to be. And I wanted to share, I'm looking for the, we made a fun trailer for it. So I'm looking for that. I'll share that as Shruti is telling us, but thank you for sharing about that.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's important for people to realize that it's not always roses. Like, there are things that happen, and you can pick yourself up and come back from it and do wonderful things. So thank you for being so honest.
Absolutely.
Okay, Shruti, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Yes, you are. Thank you, Alexa. So wonderful stories, Christina and Mardine, but mine kind of goes backwards. So my name is Shruti. I am a new author. I'm in the process of getting my first book published, but this is not the first book I've written. So like I said, my story goes backwards. So I want to share a little bit of how I came to writing stories. I've been a journalist all my life. And as a result of my profession, I've met people all over the world. I've traveled very extensively. So I had all these little stories that kind of ended in what ifs. And I kept a diary. So I would go back and read it. And there were these what ifs. And, you know, sometimes you just want to exercise your imagination to continue from the point that you know the encounter finished. About 4 or 5 years ago, I think my husband was going through one of these diaries. And he was like, oh, this is so amazing. You need to write. And I'm like, no, I can only tell stories that I've heard. I don't have that kind of imagination. But anyway, it pushed me. So I started writing. Obviously, I picked my comfort zone, which was in my culture, because I had more knowledge about my culture and, you know, the nuances, and I didn't want to get any of the details wrong. And then he started reading it and he said, oh, this is great. You need to put it up somewhere. And I was like, no, this is just something for me. But anyway, last year, I finally got the courage to put all the bits and pieces together. And I started posting my work on an app and a website called Wattpad. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. It's a website. There are lots of great books. I started posting it up there just to see what kind of reaction I would get from people. I didn't believe that I could do this, and, you know, validation was great. Anyway, the great thing is that today it's been a year since I finished my first book, and I'm almost in the, you know, on the verge of completing my second one on Wattpad. My first book in the last year has clocked in 303,000 views. Wow. So I am so blessed. I feel so amazed. And, you know, one of the things that really helped me was to kind of hone down my writing skill and, you know, try and dabble with different genres to see what kind of hit best. The second one was a little offbeat. It was a little bit more, you know, serious. So the first one was like a racy romance, obviously set in my culture. And the second one was a little bit more serious. It had to do with COVID. And that's only had about 33,000 reads so far, which is still great, but it does not compare to the one that I completed last year. So my tips going forward, I am in the process of writing my third book right now. Hopefully this will be a published piece of work. But my tips going forward is that if you're not sure about your genre, about your style, about, some of the issues that Mardine came up with, what is it? How are people going to react to it? Are they getting the right idea? Is the title working? Use these tools. Like Wattpad is a great tool to get beta readers, It's a great community of readers. They give you very honest feedback because they have nothing in it for them. They don't have anything. If they say nice things about you, it's because they genuinely feel that. If they're critical, it's because they genuinely feel that. Like with my first book, I went through a process of changing my book cover, through a process of getting a pen name instead of using my real name, because it was just some of the things that people felt it made a difference to the way it was presented. And really, to me, that also, because I was unsure, like I can see a lot of questions, a lot of people posting in the chat, first-time authors, not sure where to go. That's a great place for you to connect with people, get feedback, tell them that I'm looking for actionable points. Like I had lots of things, like people would mention things like, oh, you said the author was 32 in that chapter, but then not here. So the timeline's not adding up. And, that was great stuff for me in terms of what I had to go back and look at when I'm rating. So just little things like that, little piece of information, people who went from my culture reading my book saying, I don't understand what you're talking about. Now in my head, I know what that is because I lived that life. But if there's an outside reader, they're not able to understand. So just, tweaking those things, explaining them in a way that anybody and everybody will understand. So it was really, really great stuff for me going from there. So now that I'm working on the third book, I am looking more towards like trying a traditional publisher and all that, but the kind of feedback and the kind of things I've learned from readers out there has been so great that it's helping me with even the draft of my manuscript. I know what people are looking for, so it's much more easier to do that right the first time than to have to go back and do it over and over again.
Thank you. And yes, sites like that are so great. The question that so many fiction authors always have is, how do I find my ideal readers? And really it's putting your work out there in places like Wattpad. There's other fan fiction sites as well, where you can go out and write for groups of people. And, we were talking about this in terms of like copywriting and things like that. You don't have to worry about it. Like people don't go there to steal your stuff. They go there to read and to discover new authors and to help you. And, most of us are familiar, even if it hasn't been read, you're familiar with the book 50 Shades of Grey. Like one of the biggest reasons that besides the fact that it's a completely like crazy book, but besides that, like she built millions of followers through fan fiction sites, through writing sites, through sites like this. And they all knew who she was before the book even came out. And even though they'd already read it, they all still bought it. So yeah, it's a great place for you. For nonfiction, someone asked if there was a site like this for nonfiction. I don't know because I haven't looked, but I would say your blog is basically something like this for nonfiction. You have the ability to create your own space where if you're using the right search engine optimization and people can find you when they're searching for your topics, you can create a plethora of information, or you can write articles on other media and things like that. But that's a great question. I have not gone out there and explored a site like this for nonfiction. But thank you for sharing all of that information. Okay, Isabella, tell us about you.
Hi, my name is Isabella, and I wrote a book with my dad. I have ADHD and dyslexia, so the writing process can be a little bit complicated for me. It's a middle grade fantasy for young adults, and it can also be for teens and older people too, because it's fantasy and magic, and it adds a little spice to life when you read it. And the process took a really, really, really long time. It took 5 years we had the idea a really long time ago. I was talking to my dad, and my dad and my mom would read books to me when I was younger, mostly Nancy Drew and little fantasy books. And I remember taking inspiration from that and thinking that, wow, these women made this book, and I don't think I could ever put that amount of work into it because I was self-conscious about my reading and writing because of the challenges I have. And but I eventually overcame that with confidence. And I realized that I really do enjoy writing, and I really do enjoy storytelling and inspiring other people with what I can do. Because I do write scripts for movies as much as I can. And writing is just a big thing for me that I like doing in entertainment. But we got an editor a while ago, and they weren't a great fit for us either. It was a real mess, and we got a different one, and then we went through a bunch of people reading it, and some feedback that we got back wasn't necessarily bad, but the fact that this character in this book was relatable. The book is about a teen girl who whose parents go missing, and then she has to live with her Oma and Grandpa. And then there's this whole thing about her learning about her past and what actual good and evil is, because I feel like that's very important for me, for people to know and understand that. And I can feel that the character really does relate to women like me who have differences or feel out of character with other people. But I feel like this book is very important to me. And if I were to give advice to someone who is starting out, it would be, don't be afraid to cut down on it, because our book was really, really, really long before, and cutting down took so long. And there were so many important parts that I felt were heartfelt to me that just didn't make sense in the long run and couldn't be there because it just would have messed a bunch of stuff up, because this messes with timelines and stuff.
Well, I think it's wonderful. I wish that I had started. I wanted to write when I was younger, and I wish that I had started writing at 14, 15. Well, I guess you must have started around 10, huh?
Yeah, that was an interesting time. My vocabulary was less.
That's well, it's fantastic, and I imagine you will have a very long career in front of you. So congratulations. And what's the name of your book again?
Then and There, Here and Where.
Then and it's already.
And we're releasing tomorrow.
You're releasing tomorrow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, yay. Happy launch day. How exciting. Say that name one more time, because I got excited when you said tomorrow was the launch day. Then and There.
Then and There, Here and Where, because it messes with timelines, so might as well make it confusing.
I love it. Well, we are very excited to be a part of your journey and can't wait for you to come back and tell us when you're super famous about because she started so young. Oh, that's very exciting. All right. Well, thank you and congratulations on the launch. All right, Emily.
Hey, everyone. How are y'all doing today? I hope you're doing great.
Hi, Emily.
Hey. Yeah, so I'll just jump right in. I have known since I was in middle school that I wanted to be an author. My dad was actually a farmer, and so he was his own boss. He had a lot of flexibility. Like if me and my sister needed him to do something, he could be there for us. And so my kind of love for the author profession is both from a dreamer standpoint of like, oh yeah, I want to write books and I want to do all the things, but it's also from a practical standpoint of getting to that place of having that flexibility and being your own boss. And so when I was 17, as I was trying to decide what I would major in college, I was like, okay, let me write a book to prove to myself that I can do this and it not be some unrealistic dream that I waste 4 years of college on. So at 17, I wrote my first novel, which I'm like super excited to actually revisit in the coming year. But I wrote my first novel at 17, and I proved to myself, okay, like physically, I can write a full length novel. So now I'm going to try to set myself up to do that in the future. So I actually went to college and majored in English. But my plan was always to become an English teacher first and try to manage teaching and writing at the same time, which, if there are any teachers out there, I think you probably know that's a little impossible. Teaching became so much more than I ever imagined it would be. And then my dad actually passed away after I had taught for about 2 years. And so when he passed away, he was very young. And it was so sudden that it really showed me, you know, it's kind of now or never. My dad's life was halfway over by the time he had me, and he didn't even realize it. So that really showed me, okay, you need to go after your dream now. So that's what I did. I left teaching, and shortly thereafter, I discovered the Women in Publishing Summit in 2019. And the Women in Publishing Summit has been such a big part of my author journey. I've learned so much from all of the presenters over the past 2 years. And honestly, this summit is what convinced me to self-publish, and I could not be happier with that choice. I originally was, well, when I was 17, I actually went through the querying process. So I did all the research about how to query, how to write a query, and sent it out. Of course, got rejected, but I was learning about that process. And then whenever I started to take my writing seriously as an adult, I still wasn't sure if I would go the traditional route or self-publish. And that actually caused a lot of uncertainty in me. And it almost kept me from moving forward because I couldn't make a decision about which publishing path I would go on. So when I finally said, you know what, I'm going to self-publish, I'm going to do this, I'm going to put a novel out, and it's going to be great. Once I made that decision, it has been amazing. I wrote my novel, The Truth About Unspeakable Things. It is a women's fiction romance novel, and it comes out on April 6th of this year. And I am working with Alexa and her team to publish this novel. But I wrote that novel last summer in June and July. And since then, we have been working nonstop on, I had it professionally critiqued, which I really recommend if you're someone who struggles with insecurity or second guessing yourself. If you're a perfectionist and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to read through this novel and I'm going to pick it apart and I'm going to change it and all of these things may actually be unnecessary. If you're that person like me, I highly recommend getting a professional manuscript critique because they will tell you if your novel is worth publishing, essentially. So that's what I did. Of course, there were some revisions that came with that. Then I went through a beta reading process, which again, I completely recommend because what I actually learned from attending a conference in Boston a couple years ago, I mean, I pitched my book to let's say 5 agents in the same room. All 5 agents had a different opinion. Some were positive, some were negative, but the things that they liked about the book were always different. And the critique that they had for the book was always different. And so don't just get one person's opinion on your book. So beta reading is a great way to bring in, say, 3 to 5 beta readers. That's 3 to 5 opinions. Take their feedback. And if there's a lot of revisions that you have to do, consider going through another round of beta reading to make sure that you executed those revisions appropriately. So I highly recommend that. Obviously, professional editing. And I will say a few of the ladies have mentioned having an editor that didn't suit them. For me, it wasn't that my editor didn't suit me, but it was that after the editing phase, we went on, I did a proofread before ever sending it to the Write Publish Sell team. They also did a couple of proofreads. And with each proofread, my proofreaders were catching more errors than my editor did. And I was like, well, if the copy editor did a great job, they probably wouldn't be catching this many things later on in the stage. So I definitely recommend like vetting your copy editor. And if you're needing other types of editing as well, there are different types of editing that you can look into. For me, I did copy editing, and then I also did a proofread. And I would say moving forward for me personally, I'm going to do multiple proofreads, as in different people, because different people have different editing styles and they'll catch different things. I'm going to do multiple proofreads before formatting my book. Because we did go through a format, and then we did have to go in and make several changes and actually reformat, which is not the worst thing in the world because you're catching the mistakes before the book comes out. But for like it flowing, I would probably do multiple proofreads before the format. But working with Write Publish Sell has been awesome. They have helped with all the things that I don't necessarily want to do, and then all of the things that I do like to do, which is the marketing and the social media engagement, I'm able to really put my time and energy into that. And the last thing I'll say, two things, something that I didn't expect. Because I've had this dream for so long, I grew up envisioning like this fabulous experience of getting your book cover design and being blown away and having all these big moments. And the biggest thing that I would say I didn't expect is how much of a business this really is, and how much those moments where you think you're just going to be like, oh my God, so excited, you think it's going to be a dream come true. You're having to make hard decisions about, okay, what's the font that's going to best represent me or convey the theme of this book? So for me personally, I'm waiting until launch day to get really excited. But there have been a lot of big decisions. And I think if you accept that early on, it might make it easier for you to actually go through that process and not get overwhelmed. The last thing that I'll say that's like a tip is really, really focus on your book description. This is a small piece of text. It's like 100 words, I guess, or less, and it can be overlooked. But I feel the book description is so important because some of our early reviews are actually coming back where they thought the book would be a little different than it actually was. And then that can lead to disappointed readers. It's not that your book is bad. It's just it wasn't for them. And a lot of times the book description is going to be the make or break thing between a 2-star review and a 4-star review, depending on the expectations that that book description set.
So many great points in there, Emily. And again, it goes back to why doing this. And I talked about this in the presentation this morning about why it's so important to give yourself enough time to do it right. Because it really, when you try and rush things, it really, I mean, there's so many things that can happen along the way, but also having that time to get feedback, to have early reviewers, to have people, checking out your stuff, and also things percolate. I mean, I know that sometimes for me, like I just finished reading Mardine's book for the 3rd time. And no, it's good because you start, things percolate after a little while and you're like, did we really want to describe it? That's not really what we're trying to convey here. What we're really trying to convey is, this thing or that thing. So you have to have enough time to do those things and to sit with it and to understand what you're doing. And I read Emily's book 2 weeks ago in my round of proofreading, and it was great. And I'm excited about it. I just pre-ordered yours, Isabella, and I'm going to be checking out yours as well. I know Renee's books. But it's important on that note, like it's important to support other authors. So if you can grab these ladies' books and read them and review them, if you can, to be quite honest, I think all of us should have a budget for supporting other authors. If you can, if they have free, like Mardine has an ARC out there right now, so you can go get the ARC and you can leave reviews and do that. But if you have the opportunity to support other authors in your genre specifically, it's important, and you're going to need that when your time comes. So if you've already started doing that for other authors and making connections, it's also as much about making connections with authors as it is with readers, because you can really, really help cross promote each other and do things like that. And I'm not saying go give fake reviews. If you hate one of our books, don't go leave a glowing review. Contact the author and let them know why, because that helps, even though it's painful, that helps too, to know if there was something that you thought you were going to get that you didn't. I mean, if it just doesn't jive with you, sometimes books don't jive with you. That's all right. That's all I'm going to say on that. Like it's really, we work so hard. All of us are working so hard and investing so much time and energy and money, that when you can. That being said, you don't have to buy every single person's book in the entire world and go review it, but buy the ones that look interesting to you and help them out. Okay. Let's see. We have one more, not least, but our last presenter, Renee. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you as well. So I'm Renee Eccles Hardy, and wow, I was sitting here while everybody else was talking, trying to figure out where do I start. I am also one of those people who has written for a really long time. I don't know when I was ever not writing. And typically it was poems. And then later on in life, probably in my 30s, I took a writing course for writing for children and teens. And, I had these great ideas. I was going to write books and be a, awesome author, and push ahead several years later. And I did finally, during this pandemic, it was one of the things that I thought, I have the time, I'm an empty nester. I'm home, so right, why not? And I eventually was hooked up with Alexa, and the rest is history so far. It's interesting. I'm just going to jump into what I wish I knew. There are some things that I wish I knew before I got to the place I did, because my story is a little different, because I had already written my books and had already, what I considered, finished one of them, and had this great idea. It was going to be published by December 1st, was going to be my launch. And so it was hard for me to get a timeline and to follow a lot of the things I was learning as I went along. And one of the things that I learned really quickly, well, not quick enough actually, is I ended up paying way too much for my first illustrator. And it's because I had this great idea. Oh, I know this girl, she's an artist. I should get her to illustrate. She had never illustrated before, but she was all on board. Great idea. She just wanted to keep the rights to her illustrations, and me not knowing any better said, oh yeah, no problem. And then I get into learning more. And then I learn about work for hire contracts and, keeping the rights to your illustrations and things like that. So I ended up paying more because I paid her off to have the rights to the illustrations. And so I ended up honestly paying over $1,000 for my children's book. And my first one, and that was Beautiful Nappy-Headed Tar. And she did a wonderful job. It took a gazillion edits for her to get my vision to paper. She is she's not African American, so that was that's a hump right there. Her getting the illustrations so that they look like what I needed them to look like. And then she had a lot of life issues and illnesses, and it just took a way longer. So during that long time that it was taking, I was afraid to do pre-launch stuff, because I had no idea when it was actually going to launch. And so I was afraid to do more than I did. And I did have worked with someone else to help me with the launch. And I wish I would have known more on that as well, because I ended up not really what I expected I was buying for the help with the launch is not what I ended up with. And so I feel like, I love the person, nothing personal, but I just feel kind of let down. I feel like I didn't really have a great launch. So, I have a lot of good reviews, a lot of good feedback. So I'm happy about that. And I'm in no way finished. I've got a lot of work still to do. I've been locked out of Facebook for over a month now. If you do a two-factor, this is just a quick tip. If you do a two-factor authentication, make sure your backup passwords, make sure when you do that you put them somewhere safe, because that's what happened. I needed my password when I got a new phone, and I have no clue what the backup to the backup is. And so, yeah, I've been locked out. Facebook has a where you can recover and get back in, but it takes them so long. It was over a month, and then the only message I got was, sorry, your picture isn't clear enough. A copy of my license. So that, I feel is hurting me right now as far as Facebook. So I've been trying to be more engaging on Instagram and learn to do that. I still have a lot of work to do. And I wanted to say what ended up happening, long story short, because I didn't have a lot of time, or I wasn't sure about the time frame for my first book, I went ahead and did a second book. This time I went to guru.com, got a fantastic illustrator, was able to finish the book and launch them both exactly the same day.
Oh my goodness.
So quite a bit of, I'm still not sure how I feel about it. I'm still needing to do a lot more marketing after the fact. I didn't get to be the number one on the Amazon list for new launches and all of that like I had dreamed of. But it's okay. What else did I want to say? I do have some future things in mind. For example, I have another book I've written, and it's called We Are the Same in a Different Way. And it's a very diverse book. It's about everyone, with disabilities, without disabilities, with limbs and not limbs, vision and no vision, hearing and no hearing, on and on. I think it's going to be a great book. I am a school psychologist, so I want to make sure that I'm inclusive of people with disabilities and also mental health. So I was really happy to see Isabella on here today. So proud of her. My heart was just so happy. And then I also am working on a series. It's called Caleb the Storyteller, and it's inspired by my oldest son, who can't tell a story without fabricating, even though he doesn't think he is. So, but anyway, the second book that I published along with The Beautiful Nappy-Headed Tar, which is about a little girl who is dark skinned like me, and she is talking about all of the within our culture. There's this thing that if you're too light, that's not good. If you're too dark, that's not good. If your hair is nappy, that's not good. If it's too straight, that's not good. There's like this whole cultural issue we have around skin and hair. So with some of my experiences growing up, being a dark skinned girl, and being called things like tar, or tar baby, it really affected me, still affects me now as an adult. When someone says I'm pretty, in my mind, I hear to be so dark. So I wanted to speak to all of the different beautiful colors of brown and just say, we're all beautiful, and all of our skin and hair is who we are. And then the other book is called Get to Know Me from A to Z. Black boys are more than the skin you see. And it depicts my youngest son, Joshua, and all of the things in the book are things that are characteristics of him. Like A is for athletic, but that's not all. I can do way more than handle a ball. And so it came from, I saw a Facebook post where a little boy during all of the unrest and protest and things that went on, he was holding a sign. He looked so sad. And he said, on his sign, it said, I matter. And that was the catalyst for me writing that book. So I've learned a lot. I hope to do better as I move forward. I almost feel like I get overwhelmed because I take in so much information. So I just like to give that tip, not to get overwhelmed, not listen to everyone, key into the people you connect with, like Alexa, and just realize that she has a plethora of information that covers everything. And if I would have just listened to you and Women in Publishing Summit and not felt like I still needed more, then I would have saved myself a lot of time and a lot of money. And I just like to say that as a shout out to you. I appreciate what you offer and your big heart, and how your whole goal is to make sure we don't make the same mistakes you did. And here I go and make some of them.
Sometimes you got to make the mistake. But thank you. I appreciate that. That's what this conference is all about, right? Learning from other people who are in this journey. There's so much to learn, and I've been excited. I've been following your Instagram accounts. I've been excited to watch you as you've launched your Brown Butterfly Press and all the things that you are doing with that. So, yeah, yay. I think if you take away anything from this, it should be that, one, we all go through the journey. A lot of bad things can happen, but you can still recover from them. Take the time to learn from others and to see what others are doing. Connect. Use this week. We've got the coffee and chats this week, which are 30 minutes of just networking. We're going to pop into Zoom and we're going to break into small groups and let people just talk to each other, to connect with other authors. It's so important, and publishers and editors and all those things. Do those things because it will make such a big difference. And we're all learning. We are all learning. So it's okay to make mistakes. It is okay to to have a bad day, to have a bad experience. You can recover from it, that you really can. Your book launch is just the beginning. And, you're setting the stage for a very long career. And if you haven't watched Jenny Goutet's presentation yet, I want you to go watch her presentation. She's a fiction author, but she talks a lot about how her journey started very, very slowly. And it took her years to get, it's been 6, 7, 8 years now of just doing more things and getting out there and continuing to improve and continuing to tweak her genre and her marketing and all of the things. And now she's making $9,000 to $11,000 a month on KDP. So you can do it. Just stick to it. Be consistent. Work at it. Do all the things. Connect with these ladies. Follow these ladies. Support each other. And I'm excited to be connected to all of you. Shruti, I look forward to getting to know you more. Isabella, I look forward to following your journey. And the rest of y'all are already in my space, so I know how to follow you. But thank you, ladies, so much. Did you all put your contact information in there? Yes. Okay, good. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexa, for this.
Thank you.
It was really nice. I look forward to connecting with you more too.
Yay. Well, y'all are all wonderful. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch what you have to do over the next couple years. So have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.